Well, joining me now live in Downing Street is our reporter, Paul Hawkins. Good morning to you, Paul. You've been here all morning. There is a sense, isn't there, for the government that they feel that many of these restrictions are now necessary, given how quickly this variant is spreading in the UK.
Yeah, they're called Plan B measures, but they could be called just-in-case measures, because the message very much from Boris Johnson yesterday was that COVID infections are rising very slowly. They're not rising quickly, but the Omicron variant in particular, that's what's causing the government scientists some concern. It is rising very rapidly, doubling every 2 to 3 days, and they are worried that that could feed into hospitalisation cases rising to a critical level in 2 to 3 weeks' time. So they're saying, let's get ahead of the curve now, let's bring in these measures, and then hopefully in 2 to 3 weeks' time the NHS will still be able to cope. But obviously the critics of Boris Johnson, including his own party members, saying that the early implementation of these COVID measures, it's part of a diversionary tactic, really, from the main issue, which is what happened behind the black door behind us last December.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? I think South Africa yesterday reported 20,000 new cases, which is a new record for them. The fear is that it's been driven by this variant. You're right in saying there are suggestions, and some Conservative MPs have even put forward these suggestions, that this announcement was brought forward as a kind of almost dead cat strategy, a distraction strategy from all the allegations swirling around yesterday. There is anger in the Conservative Party, isn't there, this morning?
Huge anger. I mean, you had a William Rugg, the Conservative MP, yesterday shouting resign at Sajid Javid, the Health Secretary, when he was delivering that statement about Plan B measures in the Commons. And then earlier in the day, the same Conservative MP was questioning Boris Johnson, and he was essentially accusing him of the classic dead cat strategy, which, for those who don't understand, by the way, Linton Crosby, famous Australian political strategist,
helped get Boris Johnson into number 10.
Indeed, and Boris Johnson has openly written about the dead cat strategy, which is you put the metaphorical dead cat on the table, and then everyone's talking about that, and they're not talking about something that you'd rather avoid yourself. So that's the accusation being levelled at Boris Johnson. But yeah, we also had the former Tory Chief Whip Mark Harper as well. He was saying that why would people, I'm paraphrasing essentially, but why should the public be following these rules when those in number 10 are not following them as well? And then you've got the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, Douglas Ross, as well, saying that if the Prime Minister misled Parliament, then he should resign. So there is really not even much private discontent within the Conservative Party, really, at what their leader is doing.
It's all very public.
It's all very public, exactly, and it's out in the open. And really the Prime Minister having to rely on Labour to get the legislation through to enact these Plan B measures.
Yeah, indeed, and I think Douglas Ross also said that he would vote against COVID passports, which he opposed, of course, in Scotland, where they're currently in place. I suppose the kind of wider picture is, we've got a couple of weeks to Christmas, these restrictions being imposed. Yesterday was a really difficult day for Boris Johnson. Isn't the concern is that the government may well have to go further? I mean, that's what some of the scientists are suggesting this morning, that actually many of these restrictions that are currently in place are actually in place in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and don't seem to have made that much of a difference.
Yeah.
And Conservative MPs are concerned that the government may well have to impose even further restrictions.
Yeah, they're worried that they may have to go further. I guess the government, though, is saying, and this is the advice from the scientists, which is that if small measures now, we don't have to have big measures like the lockdown later. That's the advice that the scientists are giving the government. That's what the government is telling us. But yeah, how much compliance there is with even these COVID Plan B measures, let alone lockdown, we'll have to wait and see, given the scandal that has engulfed number 10 in the past few days.
OK, Paul, as always, thank you very much indeed. Paul Hawkins there joining us from outside Downing Street.